So what's the real price of living on autopilot? I mean, what does it actually cost us? It's not just about what we fail to learn. It's something much deeper, a hidden cost we pay when we just don't engage in deep critical thought. We're about to dive into what that really means.
And this, right here, this really gets to the heart of it. The real danger isn't being ignorant. It's living a life that's been quietly shaped by forces we never even stop to look at. Things like social pressure, algorithms, and even our own gut feelings. What you're really losing is your own freedom.
To really get this, we've got to start by looking inside our own heads. What's our default setting? How are we actually wired to think? Well, it turns out our brain has a favorite way of doing things, a mode that really values being quick and easy over everything else.
Okay, so think of it like this. Our brain has two different modes, an idea made famous by Daniel Kahneman. You've got System 1, that's your gut reaction. It's fast, emotional, totally automatic. It's basically the brain's autopilot. But then you've got System 2, and that one is slow, deliberate, and it takes real, actual effort. That's the part of your brain that does the heavy lifting of real critical thinking.
Here's the problem, though. We lean on that autopilot, on System 1, way too much. And in really high-stakes moments, like, panic selling stocks when the market dips, or choosing a medical treatment based on fear instead of facts, or even picking a whole career just because of social pressure, relying on that fast emotional impulse, it leads to some predictably terrible outcomes. This isn't just bad luck. It's what happens when we skip the hard work of System 2 thinking.
But, this isn't just a battle inside our own heads. Our natural tendency to just go with our gut, well, it's now being amplified and, frankly, exploited by the world around us, especially by the technology we use every single day. Think about our modern digital world for a second. Your social media feeds, the news sites you visit, none of this is a neutral space. It's an environment that has been specifically designed to reward certain types of behavior, certain types of engagement. And what does it reward? Speed, not reflection. These platforms are literally built to trigger our System 1 thinking, that immediate, emotional, gut reaction. Why? Well, because that's what keeps us scrolling and clicking and sharing. It keeps us hooked.
The result is a system that just doesn't care about truth or complexity or nuance. It only cares about one thing: engagement. So content that's super simple and emotionally charged, especially with outrage, gets rocketed to the top by the algorithms. And meanwhile, all the thoughtful, complex stuff, it gets buried.
So what happens to us? Well, we scroll through all these headlines and hot takes, and we feel like we're informed. We think we know what's going on in the world. But what we're actually left with is just a collection of emotional triggers, an illusion of knowledge that is completely missing any real, deep understanding.
And this environment of shallow thinking, it doesn't just mess with us as individuals. It scales up. It becomes a massive, collective problem with some seriously profound moral and ethical consequences for all of us.
One of the absolute biggest dangers here is something called groupthink. This is what happens when the social pressure to just fit in gets so strong that people literally stop thinking for themselves. They start suppressing their own doubts, their own critical thoughts, just to keep the peace in the group, and that can lead to some truly disastrous decisions.
Have you ever heard someone say this? Or, hey, maybe you've even said it yourself. I was just doing my job. It sounds so innocent, right? But it's actually a huge red flag. It's the sound of someone outsourcing their thinking, handing over their own moral judgment to a system, or a boss, or just the crowd. This connects directly to the philosopher Anna Arendt's absolutely chilling analysis of Adolf Eichmann, one of the main organizers of the Holocaust. What she concluded was that he wasn't some diabolical monster. No, he was just an ordinary, efficient bureaucrat. His immense, world-changing evil was rooted in something terrifyingly simple: a profound failure to think, a refusal to reflect on the consequences of just doing his job. And that is the ultimate philosophical price we all pay when we stop thinking. We give up our personal moral responsibility. We just let systems and corporations and ideologies make our ethical choices for us. And that's how we become capable of contributing to incredible harm without ever feeling responsible for it.
Okay, so we've seen the psychological cost, the technological cost, the societal cost. But let's bring this all the way back home, to the most intimate level, the price we pay in our own lives for our own sense of meaning and purpose. When we live on autopilot, we often confuse motion with progress. We fill our calendars up, we become incredibly busy, but we don't actually have a clear direction.
We get obsessed with productivity, but we forget to ask if what we're producing has any real purpose. And this often leads to burnout, not from working too hard, but from a deep, nagging lack of meaning.
And here's the most insidious part of all of this. The cost of not thinking deeply, it almost never shows up as some big, dramatic failure. No, it arrives quietly. It comes disguised as a perfectly normal, acceptable life.
We just follow routines we never really chose, we defend opinions we never actually examined, and we tell ourselves we're just taking the easy road.
But the great illusion here is that this somehow makes us free. It absolutely does not. Instead, we just become predictable. Our reactions, our purchases, our votes, all of it becomes incredibly easy to forecast.
And why is being predictable so dangerous? Well, because predictable people are incredibly easy to manage and influence by systems that want your labor, by algorithms that want your attention, and by leaders who use fear to stay in control.
So in the end, the greatest risk isn't that we'll think the wrong thoughts. The real, true danger is that we'll get so comfortable on autopilot that we stop thinking for ourselves altogether.
So the question I want to leave you with isn't whether you think. Of course you think. Everyone thinks. The real question, the one that will define the quality of your entire life, is deciding what is truly important enough to deserve your slow, deliberate, and deepest thought.
Every idea leaves an echo. This is Echoes of Thought. Thoughts that shape how we live. Subscribe if you believe thinking deeply is still worth it.